Well, and on that note, we move to the interview segment whereby this afternoon we are joined by Professor Misheni Ntiba, who is the Principal Secretary for Fisheries, Aquaculture and Blue Economy. Well, welcome, sir. Now, the country targets to increase fish production from the current 3,000 metric tons to over 100,000 metric tons in the next 1 year. What measures has the government put in place so as to ensure this is achieved? Yes, Professor Misheni.
Thank you very much, Jackie. It's good that we discuss the subject of fisheries and fisheries production in this country. Since this day is the day that we are celebrating the World Fisheries Day. It's being celebrated today, not the conventional date of the 21st of November, as characteristically happens in all the years across the globe, because 21st falls on a Saturday. That's why we are celebrating it today. If I can say a bit about the World Fisheries Day, is that it is a very important day when the world discusses the importance, critical importance of people, the relationship between people and water, and also fish which lives in water. Very important. But I think the way we understand it now and how we experience it now is that we are getting into a lot of stress with water. We are getting into a lot of pollution issues in water. Whether that water is in rivers, whether that water is in lakes, in seas, in oceans, or in fish ponds, and things like that. I think the important thing to notice is that water, wherever it is a continuum. It's a continuum because water is in a cycle. Water in the biosphere does not increase or decrease. It is in a cycle, whether it is in the ocean, whether it is in the lakes. It also becomes part of the clouds that we see in the skies, the water that flows on streams, going back into. So this is very important, and therefore fish thrives in those waters. And that's the critical thing that we need to be talking about. How do we keep those waters healthy? How do we keep those waters clean? How do we keep those waters safe for producing safe fish?
And on that note, how do we produce more? Tell us maybe what measures has the government put in place so that there is more production of fish in the country?
Well, to tackle this is to say that Kenya is fortunate in the sense that it has plenty of water around itself. There's water in the lakes, like we pointed out, water in rivers, in the ocean. In fact, almost half of Kenya, 42% of Kenya is in the sea. And it is in these waters that we produce natural fisheries, capture fisheries. But we also have other fish that we grow, what we call aquaculture, on land and in fresh waters, and what we call mariculture in the salt waters of the ocean. Kenya to date produces about 150,000 metric tons of fish from recent statistics. And that if Kenyans are going to eat fish at the continental level of 10 kilograms per Kenyan per year, we are in short supply of over 350,000 metric tons per year. And the government is putting in a lot of mechanisms to increase productivity from our natural waters. For example, we know over 70% of our fish, of that fisheries production comes from our fresh waters, and particularly from Lake Victoria, a very important lake for us and other lakes. We have about 26,000 metric tons coming from the sea. Remember, the sea is very big for us, 42% of Kenya's territory, and only produces 26,000 metric tons per year. And the other comes from farmed systems. But what is critical to understand is that the production from the natural waters has remained static for a very long time. We've only seen increases by 3% of production from the aquaculture farmed systems. So we want to manage the natural waters in ways that they will remain sustainable. We want to manage Lake Victoria in a manner that the lake will continue giving us the fish that it gives us. But we know, for example, the ocean is a big ecosystem requiring a lot of investments, requiring a lot of inputs. And the government is playing a very big role to increase productivity from the ocean. Remember also in the ocean, we have very many people who are small-scale producers in the shallow waters. But also we need to see Kenyans going into the deeper waters to produce fish from there. This requires ships, this requires a lot of training, this requires a lot of security, and you can understand this is the reason why in 2018 the Kenyan government established the Kenya Coast Guard to be able to protect the fishers, to be able to provide security for people working in those waters. We are also right now constructing a lot of fisheries infrastructure, landing sites across the Indian Ocean waters, across Lake Victoria. We are also constructing now a state-of-the-art fish and tuna processing system in Mombasa. We will develop others in Lamu and in Shimoni moving forward. And also we are doing a lot of aquaculture farming in the country. Remember, in the past years, we mainstreamed aquaculture farming in the country. But right now, we want to commercialize fish farming in 15 counties. And the program is supported by Kenyan government and the International Fund for Agricultural Production moving forward. It's doing very well. We need to increase our productivity from the current levels to well over 470,000 metric tons in the coming few years, and in the medium term to 100,000 metric tons. We feel that this country can produce well over 1 million metric tons utilizing our natural waters and our farmed systems. But also let me clarify this other matter. Natural systems like Lake Victoria, like the Indian Ocean, have certain capacities. These carrying capacities will be surpassed one day, and therefore we cannot produce more fish beyond the maximum sustainable yield of Lake Victoria, which I think it has reached to date. We have some fish productivity of over 300,000 metric tons in the Indian Ocean, and once we reach that capacity, we will not be able to produce more fish from that lake. I think we have also untapped potential in Lake Turkana, which we need also to be able to utilize. But that's the case for natural water systems. They have certain maximum capacities beyond which we will not be able to produce more fish. So I think the future is to develop fish farming systems, because globally, aquaculture is overtaking natural fish production. And if we take the figures of 2018 from the current figures that we have from FAO, well over 100,000 metric tons of fish came from farmed systems in the world. But also when you look at the sea waters and the land systems, we are producing well over 50% of farmed fish from fresh waters. And therefore, we in the country need to embrace fish farming moving forward. We need to also start farming in the sea while we are trying to remove the natural stocks through the conventional methods.
And to counties which are experiencing a water shortage, what measures is the government putting in place so that even them they can be part of the process?
Jackie, you see, I've been telling people that let us not venture into fish farming if we don't have water. Fish only grows in water. That's why there are aquatic systems. And there are some of our counties which don't have enough water for this. Remember, there's a lot of competition for water for various uses and things like that. We could either develop mechanisms to harvest water during the rainy seasons. Remember, we have 2 rainy seasons every year. Remember, every year it rains. There's always a lot of havoc by rainwater. You've led today's messages how our lake levels are coming, are growing, are increasing, swallowing lands that people farm, people live, and things like that. One of the mechanisms is for us to be able to tap rainwater for our use, including fish farming. But I think also we need to develop and embrace new technologies of farming like aquaponics, where in aquaponics systems we can farm fish, farm vegetables in water that is circulating in structures that are called intensive fish farming systems. We are able to do that moving forward. We've tried this in a number of schools in the country. Well over 30 schools are producing a lot of fish for themselves for food in aquaponic systems. And we intend to mainstream this even in our counties that are quite dry.
Well, just maybe even we are running out of time, and maybe what is your last point, just as Kenya joins the world in commemorating the World Fisheries Day?
I think, Jackie, the one thing I want to remind Kenyans is this, that water is important for our own survival as human beings in terms of the lives that water supports, in terms of the creatures that live in water. Now, for fisheries, I think that Kenyans must embrace the culture of stopping pollution, keeping water safe, keeping oceans healthy, keeping the lakes healthy, because our activities on land usually affect these waters, compromising them for our own use, compromising them for the creatures that live in those waters, and also the food that we get from those waters. So on this World Fisheries Day is to urge Kenyans that we should do everything possible individually and collectively to be able to keep our waters in whatever ecosystem healthy and safe, including in the fish ponds. Thank you.